Fame, if you win it, comes and goes in a minute. Where's the real stuff in life to cling to? Long.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Boomer Pod podcast, where we interview movie and TV celebrities. Our guest today is producer and director Doug Shaffer. Welcome, Doug.
Hello, how are you? Pleasure to be here.
Good. Thank you for being with us today on the Boomer Pod.
No problem.
What other career paths did you try before you got into film, Doug?
That's a very good question. My undergrad degree was in marketing. So I actually worked in sales and marketing for consumer packaged goods before I got into film. So I worked, my first job out of college was with Black & Decker, who makes like DeWalt tools and everything. So I was dealing with construction tools like cordless drills, cordless saws, miter saws, routers, all these kind of different things. And I did that for 4 years. Then I worked for Bosch, who was a competitor of Black & Decker, for another 4 years, but that was in a marketing role. I was in event marketing, and then I was in retail channel marketing. So I had a whole career before I came out here, before I got into film.
Well, Doug, let's talk about your career in producing and writing and directing. How did these roles come to you?
Well, here's the thing. I was working in marketing, as I said, and I had established kind of a career as that, but I always wanted to get into film. And I didn't, because when I was in college, there weren't really options for film. I guess you could, I took like a film introduction to film class, but nothing about movie making, not like it is now. So I started applying to grad schools because I was like, well, I don't want to just quit my job and just move out to California. I want to apply to grad school. So I applied to a lot of grad schools. Didn't get into a lot because I had really no experience. But I applied to the American Film Institute for their producing program, because the way they have it laid out, they have directors, producers, cinematographers, and production designers. And you have to stay in that, that lane where you're there. You don't just learn it all. You learn to be a producer, you learn to be a director or DP. It's a graduate level program. So I was like, well, I'm not going to get in as a director. There's no way. I think I could get in as a producer, just kind of based on my business experience. And I think there's a crossover there. So I actually got into the producing program at AFI, and that was actually a good choice to do that. So that is how I started, because I needed to be in Los Angeles and I needed to kind of understand the nuts and bolts of putting a film together, not just the creative, but the, budgeting, scheduling, things like that. So that's how it all started for me.
And how about directing?
Well, directing, I do mostly second unit directing on my movies. I've written a lot or few of my movies, whether it's screenplay or story wise. Directing, I do mostly second unit directing. So that means if the main unit shooting, I will take a B unit and shoot, whether it's kind of B-roll stuff or sometimes with actors. It just kind of depends. So because I'm very involved in the production itself, and I don't, I know the script better than anybody almost. So I know kind of what we need, because we talk about sometimes when you're shooting a movie, you need like connective tissue, we call it, which is just like little things here. Maybe you need an establishing shot, or you didn't get close-ups of hands or close-ups of something that you need later, so you'll do that. It just depends on what you've been shooting and what you've been able to get. And when you lay out the production schedule, what kind of, if there's anything you've missed. And so a lot of times second unit will do that. Or if there's more of a complicated shot that might take longer, like driving and things like that, second unit will go shoot that as well.
Now, you've produced across a number of different genres. Are there any favorites?
I am into the faith in the family now, which is what I like. I feel because I've done a lot of thrillers, kind of TV movie thrillers. I've done romance, I've done comedy, but I did a movie called 5,000 Blankets, which was my last movie. It did very well. It was very well received. And it inspired a lot of people. And so seeing people react to that in an emotional way was really awesome. And moving forward, those are the movies I'm kind of concentrating on and trying to get made now, or more along those lines. Because I think it's we don't have a lot of those right now in the theater, and it's good to have these movies that people can kind of look up to as a source of kind of motivation on just motivate on things to do, special things like be kind of to the homeless, like try to help the homeless, try to help the mental. That was what my last movie was about. So inspiring people to take action ultimately.
And what was your inspiration for making such a switch?
You mean switch from marketing?
Yeah, no, from the genres that you did
Oh,
to the family oriented.
well, that was actually a project we worked on for a while, and before it got made, and so I was really invested in it, time wise, but also emotionally. And again, it was such a good experience, and it was so good to see the effect that it's had on people. And so that's really, like you just feel like you're really doing something good. And so that's why I've gravitated more to that genre now, is because you feel like you almost like you have a higher purpose to do these things and tell these stories.
And will you continue with that genre?
I hope so. I hope so. It's definitely getting bigger, especially domestically. It's definitely kind of growing faster than any other genre now. So yeah, I would be excited.
Well, as an aside, I've written and published 3 fiction novels. The last one is a crime drama that I believe is ripe for adaptation for a TV series. Is that something you would ever consider producing, or you might pass on to somebody that you know?
Are you talking about your project specifically?
Right.
Well, look, I would want to see what you have, if you said you have screenplays or you have books.
No, I have a book. I have 3 books that I published.
Yeah, I
No,
don't know if you've already sent this to me. I'd love to take a look at them for sure.
I haven't sent it to you. What I'll do is I'll send the pilot script and the TV show Bible, the studio binder. Just to give you an idea, it's about a Jewish church club singer, and she becomes the wife and consigliera to a Chicago Italian mob boss. It's a passionate love story, guilt-free, blood-soaked retribution, and this dangerous woman's approach to the gangster world. You'd have to think The Godfather Part 2 and Queen of the South.
Got it.
Interested? I'll send this to you tomorrow.
Okay, great. I'll take a look.
You undertake your own casting?
Oh, I hire a casting director, and then we cast kind of accordingly. It just depends. I mean, the casting process for any project is typically, I mean, you could have auditions. I usually have people audition for every role because if anything, you want backups. But sometimes you do what we call offer only. If it's a name actor or actress that you want, you'll just send them the script and an offer. You won't have them audition or anything like that because they're not going to do that. But there's been many times where you've for your lead, you'll have an actor or actress that you want, they don't do it, and then you end up just taking somebody that auditioned for the role that you really like. So that's why I like having all the auditions and backups, because if somebody falls through, you got somebody you like from the audition tapes you can cast.
Now, do you match your vision of a character with an actor or an actress that you're familiar with?
It depends, but yes, I mean that you ultimately have a list, part of the process is you usually put together a list of who you would like for the roles, and depending on the budget, who you think you can get. If you got a smaller budget movie, you're probably not going to get The Rock or somebody like that. And so you try to, create a list as far as who you like, who you think is gettable, and then a casting agent will find out if they're even available, and then you kind of work on the list. And a lot of times, casting directors, communications with managers and agents, they'll get other names that are available, might be interested.
Now, who does your script writing for you?
It depends. It depends on the movie. Sometimes I will have an idea and I'll work with a writer that I know to write the idea. Other than that, there's times where writers I know will send me scripts, or other writers will send it, whether, typically through management, but sometimes they'll send me stuff direct. And I don't normally read unsolicited material. I just don't really read emails. But if somebody contacts me and might have a log line and ask me if I want to take a look at something, I will do that. But if somebody just sends me a script outright, I usually just don't even pay attention to that email. There's a certain protocol with that.
Sure. And what are you working on right now?
I'm working on a bunch of stuff. I'm working on a bunch of faith-based projects. There's a bunch of TV movies. There is some horror stuff, but I got like eight projects I'm juggling right now, all in different kind of phases. And, being a producer, you have to have a lot of stuff that you have going on, because, you're always juggling different projects, because sometimes somebody might really have a need for TV movies or horror movies or whatever. You just try to have as much stuff as you can to feed to people to get it out. And it's always in different phases. There's times when things are ready to go and then they drop out last minute. Then all of a sudden there's other ones that come up. It varies all the time. You just got to, it's really kind of a roller coaster, but it's just always good to have a lot of projects on your plate.
Tell us about some of your most memorable films.
I did a movie with Rob Reiner called Being Charlie, which was good. It was good to talk to him and learn from him, because he's been around a long time. I did a movie called The Perfect Match with Queen Latifah's team, and that was good. That was a theatrical release with Lionsgate. That was kind of crazy, and for a theatrical release, I had to do the post on that, and I had to get that movie done in like a month to get it into theaters. So that was a crazy, crazy ramp up post, and that was because Lionsgate had a theatrical window in March. This is March 2000, and so I was talking to them on Christmas, and they're like, "Well, look, we have a theatrical window here of, like, I think the movie was released like March 16th, and we need to know if you can get it finished up in time." So I had to go through, finish the editing, do all the post sound, music, everything, and have that in theaters by March 16th. So that was crazy, crazy, and get it rated, and also have a group come in, and a test group come in and watch the movie and stuff like that. It was crazy timeline, but it worked out.
And what did you like about the content of these two movies? Let's say if you were an audience, what would you like about the content?
Well, the Perfect Match was a romantic comedy, so a lot of people like romantic comedies. Just very kind of light romantic, more of a modern romance and a modern comedy, urban. And a lot of people seem to like it. They like the comedy and the players. We had great casting in that movie. And with Being Charlie, what was cool about that movie is that Rob Reiner, he worked on that movie for free, because the movie was written by his son, and his son had the movie's about, a troubled kid from an affluent family who is into drugs, and his journey through rehab and stuff like that. It's based on a true story. And so he did that. He really did the movie to work with his son, and he loved it. He said it was like the best experience of his life. But it was good to see him, the father in him nurturing his son. And his son is a reporter for the news in LA now, and covers all the Dodgers games and everything. But he to see that, just to help his son, with his movie career, but also doing this gesture for his son, which a lot of people don't do, actually. Even when they have kids in the business, they don't go out of their way to do that. he did, which I thought was really great. And as a father, it was good to see just a loving dad who loves his son to do something for that, for really not the money or anything, but for the love of his son. Loved it.
Terrific. Well, what do you consider your greatest accomplishments, Doug?
Well, I think as a whole, I'm proud of myself from going from marketing to film and having a pretty good career so far in it, I think, and not starting like when I was 20 or whatever, just kind of grinding my way through and kind of going through the ups and downs. I think that's where I'm most proud of myself, is that being able to get through the strikes, get through work stoppages, the economy, things like that, and just being able to survive and find a niche and making it work. Because that's part of it when you're making movies, whether it's in LA, wherever else. It's like you have highs and you have lows. You just got to keep riding. It's keep trying to keep your head above water so you can keep doing it. Because a lot of people, they go at it and they give it like 1 or 2 years. I'm like, that's not really the way it is. I mean, your relationship with film is like a marriage or entertainment. I mean, there's ways to nurture it and to keep going on. That's the way you have to look at it if you want to succeed, is look at it like a marriage. That's what you have, and you don't want to get divorced. You want to keep going and grow and learn and better yourself and better your working partners and things like that.
And what do you consider your biggest career challenges?
Biggest career challenges. I mean, from the past or upcoming?
Both.
Again, I think the biggest thing for me was just coming from a career. I came out to LA in like 30, or when I was like early 30s. And I think that was a challenge just from the age standpoint, to kind of start over was a big challenge, just time there. And I think in the future, the bigger issues you deal with are how you are adapting to new technologies and new buyers of content, and how to adapt, because you do have to adapt, because like with AI and these other things that are coming up, you got to try to stay ahead of the game, because otherwise you're going to get washed over, and you have to be able to adapt because budgets sometimes go lower. And you have to be able to maybe make a $500,000 movie, and then you make a $4 million movie. But trying to navigate through that and again stay afloat is the big challenge. You just have to be adaptable.
And where do you hope to be in the next 5 years?
Running my own studio.
Yeah.
No. I mean, look, there's one thing I'm working on, is kind of a offering and things like that, where we can make our choices and fund lower budget genre movies, because that's kind of a space that's kind of ripe, and studios don't always pay attention to the smaller movies. They rather just acquire them than make them, because they have a huge number they have to hit. So they look at it like, in order to do this, I need to spend this amount of money to go over what we did last year. So they're going to spend $300-400 million in some of these movies. That's what they want, instead of doing 10 million-dollar projects or 10-20 million-dollar projects. They'd rather just spend it on one movie, $200 million movie.
Can you tell us about your heritage and your family?
I am come from mostly, I guess my brother did a DNA test, so I thought I was mostly German, but I actually got a lot of Swiss and English in me. So, we come from Europe, but based on my last name, we always thought I was mostly German, but I'm actually mostly English and Swiss, other than German. And a lot of my relatives come from rural Pennsylvania, like Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Got a lot of Amish blood in me.
And how about your immediate family?
Well, the same, my brother, my mom. Well, my mom has more of the English stuff, but my brother he's got the same DNA as me. So, and my son, he's got my blood and his mother's blood. She's mostly German and Swiss as well.
How would you like Doug Shaffer to be remembered?
As being very giving of his time and his resources, very kind and easygoing and friendly. I think that's kind of how I am. I'm more interested in just when I'm gone, I want people to remember me not for what I've done, but for who I am ultimately. I don't want to be judged by, oh God, he did these great projects. But like Doug was a great guy. He was a good guy. He helped me out here. I learned from him here. He was really good to be around. He treated his friends, family, and strangers with just a lot of love and affection.
What have I missed, Doug? Anything you'd like to mention or pitch?
I like sports, and I do like sports movies. I'm very much a diehard Philly fan. I was born in Philly, so Eagles, Flyers, and Phillies. But I did move to Chicago, and I became a Bulls fan. So they're my favorite basketball team. But other than that, it's all Philadelphia. Love that.
Where did you live in Chicago?
In the suburbs, in the west suburbs of Chicago, and went to, again, undergrad at Illinois State. So
Yeah.
very much in tune with Illinois.
Well, the reason I ask is because I'm from Chicago.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
Where
Born
in
in
Chicago?
the city.
Okay, so it's Geneva, King County.
I'm sorry?
Geneva, near Aurora.
Yeah, I know where that is.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a radio talk show in Aurora for a year,
Wow.
and we interviewed individuals and tried to help teenagers that were in trouble with the law.
Got it.
That was the whole
Got it.
premise.
Got
So
it.
I'm very familiar with Geneva and Aurora.
Yeah, it's a good area.
Will you join us in the future with any updates in your career, Doug?
Sure. Yeah, sure. No problem. Should
I'll
be
be-
soon, hopefully.
I'll be in touch.
All righty, buddy.
Be
Thank
well,
you.
Doug. Be well. And thank you for the interesting conversation.
Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And you will be happy too.